G'day everyone, welcome back to Free Kick, the official AFLW Fantasy podcast. And tonight you have me, Liam, hosting alongside a slightly smaller cast of characters. I'm joined tonight by Will and Jono. Will, I will go to you first. How was your weekend and how are you going in mourning of the member of your defence?
I'm just going to focus on the positives and say that Geelong beat your Essendon, so I'm pretty happy with that. And I'm not going to dwell on any negatives, even if there were several to come out of that game, including a 19 score from Piper Dunlop, which we'll get to later. But regardless, I'm thrilled. I had a win in the men's on the Friday night, a nice win, a big upset win. You know, an undefeated team being beaten by a team that hadn't won a game yet. Great win by Geelong. I'm stoked. To be honest. The bigger result for the weekend was actually Collingwood coming within, 10 goals of North Melbourne. I think that's a thrilling effort, to be honest.
Two things. Firstly, the wind will help with that, in the North Collingwood game. And then I will say, yes, the Bombers were undefeated going into this game, but they were also missing their best forward, their second best forward, their best halfback, and their second best halfback. It is quite difficult to win in those conditions, but credit to you. It was a very good win for Geelong. Jono, I'll go to you. How does it feel to actually watch your team kick goals?
It was wonderful because I have to say at quarter time when the score was 1-2, I wasn't feeling great. I thought we're in for another slog. And then, just either side of half time, something happened, the team clicked, and it was just marvelous to watch. We're finally back on the winner's sheet. Our percentage looks healthy compared to a lot of other teams. It's nice.
It is helpful to have a healthy percentage because you're not conceding any points, but I will note that there was an entire 4 quarters between goals. I think it was Casey Sheriff kicked one in the second last week, and then it took until the second quarter this week for Niamh McLaughlin to kick one.
Look, it was definitely a long time, and boy, it was a tough slog, but this is the beauty of being a Hawks fan. Eventually it all comes good. And I know we don't usually mention the men's, but I also got to watch the Hawks win the finals in the men's, the finals in the VFL. We were 3 from 3 on Saturday. It was a gorgeous weekend.
I am extremely envious, but let's not dwell on the real football. Let us get to the fantasy with the shipping report. I think we're going to go top down this week, which means I can't throw to myself, disappointingly. I'm just a week too late to be hosting, but Jono, I'm going to throw to you first. You had a huge week and another very high weekly rank for the squad.
Yeah, no, second 1,500 plus score for the season, which I'll be honest is thrilling. Scored a 1,522, a weekly rank of 44, which has me up to 157th. We're closing in on that top 100. We're not there yet, but it's exciting to see. I think the good call this week, I was oohing and I wanted to go Riddell so badly, but I ended up not doing that in the end, and I went with Tilly Lucas-Rod and Eilish Sheeran in. And I know that both only scored in the 80s, but it did mean that I took rookies off my field, which is why I went with it. So I didn't have to cop the 66 from Fish or what I would have copped, which was the 49 from Rebecca Ott, which I know a lot of people were hit by that Tessa Boyd laid out, which was very unfortunate, so close to the game starting and being on the Sunday. I'd say the only thing that I regret was by reaching up for those two, I wasn't able to get a decent rookie on the other side, so I didn't grab Sierra Greaves, who went 73, looked very good yet again. So I think that price is rising quickly.
Yeah, which rookie did you go instead of Greaves, or did you just
I went with Lauren Young in the end, who I expect to be very, very good, but did not play. So that was just, I suppose, a look at the VC loop was the idea behind that one.
It's like I'll jump in right away. I was in the same spot. I was trading in Tessa Boyd all week, but got to that news with about 4 minutes to spare, meaning that I also traded in Lauren Young. I had a pretty solid week actually. I had a 1,400 and 84. Now, we're recording just after lockout has lifted, so I haven't even had time to look properly at my round rank. I had a round rank of 254, which is actually pretty much where my overall rank is as well. So I'm at 281, but I did look today and there is less than 100 points between 300th and 100th. So there is a lot of condensing to go, and a lot of teams are very, very close. My good call in the end was I was in the position where I needed to trade out Georgia Patrikios. I was umming and ahhing over a few players. I really did have a strong look at Eden Zanker, decided against it and went with Shelley Heath, who looked like she'd popped something close to a 90 until the rollbacks after the game had finished meant that she only scored a 77, but did mean that I wasn't sitting there with Boyd on field, and it also meant that I wasn't then copying Beck Ott's score on field. So I was very happy with that. My bad call, how is it that I haven't had Zippy Fish on field for any week and she's gone 90, 80, 90 or 90, 90, 80? And the second I bring her on field, she gets put on the wing and scores a 66. And I swear Sydney knew that I was just like, come on, like let's just get her above Sierra Greaves so that I don't have to feel bad about again leaving points on the bench. In the last quarter, Zippy Fish on the wrong wing for the entire thing. Ball does not go over there. It was infuriating. I can't believe that I've somehow managed to do that. And then, I was also my blind side was also just buoyed out. Like, I kind of switched off from the first of the games going, all right, okay, now time to tune into the Bombers game and then the game with my captain on. Well, hang on. Why are they talking about, why are people I'm seeing talking about Tess Boyd out? Why is she coming up with the black logo as emergency on the app? Oh, shivers. Oh, right. Okay. Got to do something to fix that. So, but tough luck if you did cop it. There was so little time to react to it, and just a function of there being just far less information out there for the AFLW. Now, I would throw to Mel at this point, but she's sadly not with us. Not for anything bad. She's just on holiday. She scored a 1,433, and all we've got from her in advance of this is, woo, my rank is inside the top 1,000, so that's good. And sadly, that does mean, Will, you are bringing up the rear this week. How'd you go?
Yeah, I'm actually pretty happy to have gotten where I did in the end. I scored a 1392, weekly rank of a 1919, which does actually put me up 250 ranks to 1,802, so just missing out on cracking that top 1,800, which we know is the goal. Look, my good call, bad call was pretty difficult this week because I felt over the last 2 weeks I haven't done a whole lot wrong. It's just a lot hasn't gone right. And so for my good call, it was trading out Taylor Harris. I only scored a 47. I used that to fund my other trades and got Sierra Greaves in, so happily having Greaves on my bench making a bit of money. My bad call was still not having a ruck, because this week was meant to be the ruck upgrade, but having to trade Jazz Garner to Ashradell meant I didn't have the money for it. Thought, I guess I'll just have to run a rookie ruck for another week. And Murphy was dropped, fair enough. Steph Wales was back, but Piper Dunlop managed to score a amazing 19, which is a score that Mel's rucks would be proud of. I mean, Basanko
that's what they dream of.
I was about to say, Basanko sitting on the bench scored another 6 for Mel, so I think 3 times that is wonderful. But yeah, my rookie ruck strat, which was serving me so well early in the year because it meant that I could use the money elsewhere, unfortunately it's come unstuck because of the unfortunate injury. So my blind side has been basically for a second week in a row, Jazz Garner getting injured. I also got stitched up by the Tessa Boyd laid out, but I think that was a fairly common event across a lot of coaches. So I traded, but I was choosing between Rentsch and Forbes to trade out to get Boyd, and I ended up going for Rentsch. So I missed out on 1 point there, which was a bit disappointing. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what I can do with my trades this week, because I can definitely now get a ruck, but it also means that I'm probably still having to field a rookie on field, either in my back line or potentially Sierra Greaves on field. So, yeah, it's a bit tough at the moment.
That is brutal. And just, when we talked about the fact that, you were going to trade out Ebony Marinoff, in terms of the ways it was going to burn you, this is not
exactly
the trajectory we were expecting.
Exactly. Up until that second quarter of last week against Yatapulti, it was going swimmingly. Garner was on 51 midway through the second quarter. I was thinking, you beaut, solid captain, gonna trade up to a ruck next week, gonna follow you guys up into that top 200, and then just absolutely tanked it from there. So, but as you say, I'm happy that the way I did it, and I was confident that it was something that might get me ahead. It has just gone wrong in, as you say, Liam, the way that I could have had 10 guesses. That wasn't the way I thought it was going to go.
Yeah, it was a good process, bad result.
Yep.
But your bad result does mean that you are burdened with the watch and wait scoreboard this week as the lowest ranked coach. So by all means, fire away.
Yes, I seem to be stuck with the watch and wait scoreboard every week now, but I tend to do it anyway, so I'm very happy to do it. Watch and wait scoreboard. So the top coach at the moment is Rosie's Ruiners, Nick R, with a massive 5,997 points.
What makes this even more insane is that was with the highest round score of the week, with 1613. But this is the same coach that had a 1703 in round 2.
Yeah. Their overall lead is 77 points. That is a huge jump to number 2. And they were sitting second last week as well. So well done, Nick. Your team's absolutely flying. As Liam said, a 1613. Just wild numbers there, clearly picking all the right players, all the right weeks. And basically, if you're looking to stay in the top 100 overall, you needed a round score of 1463. So both Liam and Jono, you have done well there to keep up with the pace, which is well up from last week, which was a 1365, which I have only just beaten this week after failing to get close to that last week. And the total points overall for your 100th position coach is 5,703. So still a fair bit of stretch to get to that top position, but we know that things can change drastically in AFLW Fantasy. I am a living proof of that for the negative. But in terms of the free kick league, our free kick league ladder is, again, Vague Prop W. Kevin G slips to second overall after leading overall last week with a 15-14. Still a very, very good score, though, and they are leading the free kick league. So still got plenty of good coaches in that free kick league. Good for everyone that has joined up for that. You can still join, I believe, as well.
Yes, and the league code will be in the description of this podcast wherever you are listening. It does mean that we have 36 of the top 100 coaches are in our league. So sitting in a pretty good spot. Rightio, let's move on to the hottest topics of the week. And as much as, last week it was defined by injuries, at this stage, when we're recording right now, there aren't injuries to throw spanners in the works, which means that we're probably moving into upgrade season. So, the hottest topic of this week is how are we doing that? Obviously, it's going to be about how we're going to get rookies off field, but also importantly, it's having a look at some of the most highly owned players that are currently out there and just having a bit of a think about whether or not they are a keep or they are a trade. So, I'm just going to have a quick scroll by percentage ownership, and we are just going to run through quickly whether or not they should be getting out of your team, a target for your team, or you should be holding them. So, Ebony Marinoff, Will, what are you doing with her? If you own her.
If I own her, I'm holding.
If you don't own,
don't own, you cry into your injured Ash Garner, into your injured Jazz Garner. But I think that she's now at a price where you can consider bringing her in. She's lost 441k overall, nowhere near the top priced midfielder anymore, and is currently the 4th highest averaging player. So still a very good player to have in your team if you don't. Hasn't scored under 100 all season, so this premium scoring is still there. We're just not getting those massive 140 plus games on the reg, but I still think that Marinoff is a player that you will want in your team by the end of the season.
So if you're part of the 31% of the competition that doesn't have that is a stamp of approval to bring her in, she's lost 441k and yet she is still the 2nd most expensive player in the game. She's lost the 3rd most amount of cash of any player. So just a fascinating thing. Now, Jono, for you, Zippy Fish, you brought her off field last week. She's lost cash for the first time. So now she's only up 551k for the year. And she is, in my mind, for the 65% of owners, the embodiment of what upgrade season is. Has a great matchup this week against Collingwood. But what are you doing with her if you've got her in your side?
Yeah, so look, I feel like Fish is the sort of player that for sure she could go higher, but there is no harm with trading her out. I didn't actually take her off field last week. I traded her out of my side because I think with rookies, you always know that there's a chance that they're going to drop a poor score. The fact that a 66 from a rookie is a poor score for Fish is incredible, but we know that she's now at a price where it's only, a hop, skip and a jump and you're on someone like Kate Hoare. It's just a much easier choice to have in your team. So I think if I had her in my side, I'd be looking at trading. I wouldn't be doing it with great urgency. If you've got more important things, I wouldn't stress about leaving her another week, but I'd be happy to trade her out.
I wonder what those problems could be. But, okay, here's a question for you then. You've got to make the choice between upgrading Fish at M5 or Rentsch at D5. Now, Rentsch has lost 46k this week, so she's sitting at 518k, has scored far lower than what she did in round 1. That was at 78. She's had 2 40s and then a 39 up against Yatapulti on Sunday.
Playing as a key back as well.
Playing as a key back on Gemma Houghton, which is just there's
did
some questions
job, funnily enough.
Aside from the 2 easy goals that she shouldn't have let get scored, yes, did do a good job. Who is the bigger priority to trade out? Is it Rentsch or is it Fish?
Yeah, I would say it's Rentsch. I think there's still a world where Fish can score 80 plus again. And really, there's nothing wrong with that on field. Whilst Rentsch has gone, 40, 39. I think at some point you've got to go, this is, just so far below par what you should be getting from a player there that I'd probably be prioritising that, particularly with the matchup Fish has got.
I agree wholeheartedly. Now, also in terms of some of the highly owned players, we've got Georgie Prespakis. I don't think we're trading her at this stage. Zarlie Goldsworthy has somewhat underwhelmed based on the high expectations, but her average is still comfortably in the top forwards. If you do, I don't think you're trading her out. Of those 2 players, though, Will, which one would you prefer to be trading in? Is it Prespakis at 1.158, averaging 100? Or is it Goldsworthy at just over $1 million, but only averaging 87.5?
Yeah, it's tough because I think it's interesting because I'd rather trade in Goldsworthy because I think if you're trading in Prespakis, there are better options around that price. But if you're trading out, I'd also rather trade out Goldsworthy because I think playing for GWS is just not good at the moment. And I'm happy having Goldsworthy at the moment. She'll average fine. I'm probably not trading into Prespakis either. I'm very happy having her on my field as well. So in that regard, if I'm trading in, I probably want to trade Goldsworthy in because I think you're getting more value as a forward out of Goldsworthy. But again, playing for GWS is not a great thing at the moment.
I've got one query, Will. Let's say we're trading out of Zarlie Goldsworthy. Where on earth are you going?
Well, I
think I can't see that happening.
I think that's kind of what I'm saying. The only reason you're trading her out is probably if you're saying, I want to make a little bit of money elsewhere and I'll target, say, maybe an Ash Woodland, who's just ticking along nicely and is a 150k less. I know there's not a huge amount of great forward options available to us at the moment. You could be looking at, say, an Ash Maloney. It's not the easiest, swap around. You might be saying, I want to bring in Bonnie Toogood this week now that she's back. Might be an option. That's 400k.
Yeah, it's an interesting.
So these are some of the things you might consider. But I don't think either of them are priority trades.
Yeah, I'm looking at Goldsworthy. We're saying that she had a down week, and I think it's fair that she did. But she was also the 6th highest scoring forward during a down week.
I completely agree. A 78 is for the what was the highest priced forward at the start of the year, and at the start of the round, a little bit disappointing. But I don't think there are going to be many coaches sitting there going, Goldsworthy, that's my biggest worry. I've definitely got to get her out of here.
Yeah, I do agree with you. And just so to make it abundantly clear, I'm not proposing you should trade out Zarlie Goldsworthy. I'd say the main thing I'm hoping is that there is a certain coach who is traded out of GWS.
Goldsworthy, yeah.
Yep.
Makes a lot of sense.
You kind of see the way that what I'm trying to say there. Now, there's a couple of players here that are all around about that 37 and 38% ownership that I'm really stuck on this week. It's Charlie Thomas, it's Mim Strom, and it's Bre Koenen. We'll go for the two defenders first. Charlie Thomas has done a classic Charlie Thomas game. She has had a massive quarter, 2 okay quarters, and then crickets to score 73, which means that outside of one really bad game, her other 3 scores are 75, 72, and 73. Are you saying, okay, I don't like what Charlie Thomas is doing, I feel like there are defenders with better roles? Or are you holding? Or are you looking to target her, given that she has now also lost 100k on the year? Jono, I'll go to you first. Charlie Thomas, what kind of player is she in upgrade season?
Yeah, she's a tricky one because I do think that the ceiling has just not been there this season, and that is really frustrating in a game which, really rewards those ceiling scores. But I also don't think she's doing a lot wrong. I think anything over 70 is a pass mark in your defense. So 3 of the 4 rounds this year is fine. I think if your team is, absolutely flying, you could move her on. But I really don't think it's a priority.
No, I agree with you. It's more just as a target is the tougher question. Is it a case that this West Coast team is just a little bit too prone to just feeding it to whomever's got the hot hand, but always making sure it's being shared around with lots of different people, such that the massive scores won't happen unless your name's Ella Roberts? Or is there a big 100 incoming for Thomas this, in the next, say, 2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah, well, I think what excites me coming up in their run, so it's if you look at who they've played, I mean, it's Gold Coast, it's Essendon, it's St Kilda, and it's Port Adelaide. I wouldn't say that, they're not like bad teams, but I also don't think that they're teams that are really putting them to the sword. And when you see the next 2, you've got Fremantle, Melbourne. I can see in particular that Melbourne game, the ball spending a lot of time in defense compared to what it's been, and there could be some bumper scores coming. So
But would you trade her in?
Happy. Yeah, I mean, if I needed a defender, if I was going from Jess Rentsch up, I wouldn't be against it for sure. I'd be happy to. I don't think it's like the first person I'd go, but I can see why you'd want to go there. Speaking
of players that have some difficult runs, Bre Koenen now coming off Adelaide. She's had a 74. That midfield time has waned. Comes in this week against North Melbourne. I'm an owner, and I'm afraid. At the moment, I'm sitting here thinking, I just want to get other rookies off field. But personally, I think that she's not a target. She is someone that I am actively thinking about an exit strategy for because of that concern about her role going forward. She just appears to have played mostly defence. It was mostly a role on Ponta today, which makes perfect sense going up against Adelaide. But yes, it's don't be kind of fooled by these consistent scores. It's been 78, 73, 74 in her last 3 games, I am worried for a lot of the game. And I think she was on 18 at halftime this week. So she's someone that worries me a lot. Now, the final player I mentioned earlier was Niamh Strom.
Trade her out. Terrible. Get rid of her.
You're mad. Basically, I feel like her price is now bottomed out. So she's dropped nearly 220k. She only went up 7k this past week. Now that she gets to play against the Wiggles, is this the week to bring her in? Because that's where I'm thinking at the moment. I'll go Will, given you are rucks on the brain at the moment.
Yeah, I think if you have the luxury of going into a trade for Niamh Strom, absolutely, why wouldn't you do it? I think we know how good Strom is. The West Coast rucks are not really doing the job. They're playing 3 of them, which isn't really doing a whole lot for them. Lakai, Wakfa's playing at full forward for some reason, and also McGrath. Strom will easily, you'd think, score 100 points against the Eagles, and if not, it'll still be up probably at least a 90. So I think that trading into Niamh Strom at the moment is a great move if you can afford it, and if you do have the luxury of doing that trade. There are some decent rucks at slightly lower prices, both the Wales sisters and, of course, Morford and Schultz, but if you can get to Strom, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I'm kind of sick of hate watching Fremantle and hoping that she scores poorly, to be perfectly honest with you. It has been a brutal existence. Before we jump across to some trade targets, we've already kind of talked about one in Niamh Strom. Jono, I'm going to talk about some cash generators in the forward line who maybe have reached the end of the line. Stone Bogue has a game against Brisbane this week. Laura Stone has a game against Adelaide and had a bad roll. Of the 2 of them, who is the more important player to trade out?
Yeah, I really don't like that matchup, and that has me greatly worried. But to be honest, I also think Stone had to really pick up in that second half, and she spent a lot of time off the ground. I worry that with a young player carrying such a strong midfield load, that is something that might come to an end soon. So I can see a lot of reasons to jump off both. I don't think either of them is going to massively drop away in scoring. So it's actually a hard choice. I think I'd probably trade out Stone before Bogue, but I think it could go either way, really.
Great. Yep, that's how I've been feeling looking at my team over the weekend. Excellent.
Yeah, I don't have Bogue, so I've got the Stone that I'm been looking at, and Stone currently is in my trade out plans. I think Stone has been really, really good at scoring a decent, consistent score between sort of that 50 to 70 mark. And I think it's not going to take a huge amount. It could even be, say, a tough matchup against Adelaide that could just push out a 40 score, and all of a sudden that cash gen's completely gone. And I think the way North Melbourne are playing, I think, suits keeping Bogue for probably a week more than Stone, just because, yes, they're playing Brisbane this week, but North Melbourne are playing such good football that they could beat Brisbane by 5 goals as well. And Bogue might get on the end of them and put together a good score. I do agree it's probably a toss of a coin, but if I had to keep one, it would probably be Bogue.
Yeah, I think the problem with Stone has been Bridie Hipwell has been spending a lot more time in the midfield.
I think that's a definite response to us losing the contest, because Hipwell is a much bigger body, much stronger, and we were definitely outmuscled by both Carlton and the Dogs. So I think that's why.
Is it bad that I just assumed that Laura Stone was a big body midfielder because her last name was Stone?
I don't think Stone is small. It's just that they're young. So they're not as
absolutely.
as
Absolutely.
strong. Yeah.
But I was just like, oh yeah, strong as a stone in there. Like, what more could you want?
I think someday Laura Stone is going to be an absolutely massive unit coming through that midfield, but it'll take a little bit, a few more
Look, I think that the moment she's got like some of the traits that they lost in Mattia when Mattia Breed left, but it's not the same aggression and it's not that same ball-winning capability. It's a little bit more reactive at the moment. Still tackles really well, and, when she's around the ball, she has the ability to kind of string 3 or 4 together. But she is absolutely on the trade-out radar, particularly with Jazz Fleming still to return. All right, well, now
just
that
quickly, I can't believe you didn't just say trader.
Oh. Oh, dear. Yep, that's a miss from me. I don't know if that's going to make the cut in the edit. Sorry, Will. Maybe it will. Who knows? Week 5, trade targets. So we've talked a lot about some of the more highly owned players, just kind of what we're going to be doing with them. It's by no means comprehensive, but we thought it best to be a bit of a primer on what we're thinking about some of the players that we have a lot of in our team. Let's have a look at some of the players that we should be targeting. Jono, you've done the run sheet and you've decided to go with trade targets classed by, I'm assuming, the same people that do the Nando's
yes,
spiciness
that
classification.
My thought process. Yeah.
Do we have any, lemon pepper ones?
Yeah, lemon and herb.
If you can think of anyone, go for it. Yeah.
So, Will, who's your lemon and pepper target?
My lemon pepper one is
target.
You should probably be targeting Ash Riddell if you don't have her, because she's the highest averaging player, and it makes sense.
It really does. In a way that.
What about the fact that she's 1.6 over 1.6 million?
Yeah, bad luck if you've missed it.
Worth every penny.
But if you've got the ability to get her in, bring her in.
How much are you breaking your team? Like, are you bringing a rookie ruck on field in order to do it?
Definitely not. As someone who is rookie rucking, I would highly recommend against it. It has been the bane of my existence for the last 2 weeks after being very happy with it for the first 2. But I think if you've got someone like Kiara Bowers or even like a Prespakis, and you are sitting in a position where you're sitting pretty and thinking about upgrading players, you might be able to, say, trade in a bench Zippy Fish quite easily to get the money to do that. Obviously, it's a luxury trade if you're doing that. But again, if you've got the ability to bring in Ash Riddell and you have like a Zippy Fish on the bench, you're doing pretty bloody well. So, but yeah, I think there's plenty of good players that you can bring in your midfield that aren't Ash Riddell. And I think most players who are doing well probably already have Ash Riddell.
Testify. That is a very lemon and herb call there. I think you've absolutely filled the brief. Jono, who's your kind of mild spice trade target this week? Or if you've got several?
I've got several for sure. I think, going through the lines, I've just been looking at who I would want to bring into my team. And the first cab off the rank, I suppose, is Emma Carney. She's been fantastic in her return. She's very lowly owned. There's not a player that in the history of the comp really that's been as consistent as she has over the years. So I'm pretty comfortable, even despite her being 36 now. I'm pretty comfortable trading her in as a pretty unique defender there. And the fact that she put up a 96 on the weekend, I honestly didn't expect that sort of a ceiling. So I'd be pretty happy fielding that every week.
Yeah, I think the reason why I'm a little worried about Carney is the game time. I think that's the thing that has me just a little bit concerned about Emma Carney, because the player I think that is super mild is Kate Hoare. Just given the price point, she's now lost that 50 that she had. Was it 50 that she had in week 1?
Not quite.
So
she's put up a 60.
60.
Yeah.
Okay, she had a 60, but with 12 handballs as well. She's now up 3K on the price that she started at, a price that we all agreed that we really liked her given what Melbourne's run looked like. She is coming off a 119, going into a matchup that has been allowing massive scores to players. So going up against Port Adelaide this week, the run doesn't really get bad at any point. It definitely feels like at the moment. At least until, round 10, round 11, I think she is a massive target this week. She is not that much more expensive than Zippy Fish. So it costs less than 160K, which, some of us have 3 times that sitting around just for fun.
It's funny because I would have if I hadn't have gone for Tessa Boyd last week. But I thought, you know what? I can't miss out on Tessa Boyd scoring, so I'll do that anyway. And then I'll just, have the extra money for next week. It's fine. And no, Tessa Boyd doesn't play. I miss out on all that extra money. And disappointing.
Hey, at least you and everyone else didn't miss out on Tessa Boyd's score this week. No one missed out.
At least I didn't miss out on Sierra Greaves, but alas.
Yes, I appear to have, hit the Goldilocks zone of getting exactly the same amount of points from Lauren Young, but also getting Sierra Greaves. So I'm ecstatic. The other player that I think is a mild target, if you can afford it, is Niamh Strom. I feel like she's hit her basement price. It's only going to get tougher from here. All right. I'll lead with you. Oh, actually, no, you got lemon and herb, which is effectively just mild. Jono, you're up next. Who's the medium spicy target?
I think first one, I was a big fan of Niamh McLaughlin. Moved into the midfield and really looked fantastic. And I think with Charlie Rowbottom still out on the injury list as a bit of a TBC, I think this is a role that, A, will probably last longer than Rowbottom's return, but also was fantastic. I think she was a big part of why they were able to get that midfield dominance over the Giants. It was only the Giants, but it's a 94.
That's probably the only little
pretty
bit of
fantastic.
spice there.
Yeah.
I agree with you completely. I am also just feeling very vindicated when I watched that game in the preseason, and I just remember thinking, wow, the only good ball movement from Gold Coast is coming from Niamh McLaughlin. Just like, yep. Yeah, I wonder if they throw her in the midfield.
I mean, it took them a month to figure it out as well, Liam, so...
I think McLaughlin's also part of a very small club at the moment, I imagine, who has gone better literally every week. 59, 72, 81, 94. I'm hoping we're ready to see our first 100. That's where this is going.
Oh, yeah, actually. Who else? I don't think I know of anyone else who's on that kind of
trajectory.
Path.
Yeah. I think Dayna Finn fell 3 points short of that, but otherwise I can't think of too many.
Oh, yes. But yeah, I'm all in on Niamh McLaughlin now. She is at 907K. I'll push you for what does she average to finish the year, given that that's priced at pushing 80.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect it to be much over 85. That's probably what I'm hoping for from here. So it's not like it's going to be a 95 every week, but I also don't think that there are defenders who are going to be doing that. So to me, this sort of midfield role that she's taken herself upon, I would have put her healthily in my top 5 last week in the Sweet 16.
Yeah. Does she? How many more points does she average in Shelley Heath, who is at 725K, who I also think is a medium trade target?
Oh, Shelley Heath, it's a tough one there. I would expect them to average probably around the same. It's just, it's so frustrating because I feel like she had 2 great quarters and then 2 quarters of very low scoring. And I know one of them she was off getting assessed for an injury, which had me very concerned. But the other one, she just was on the field and not around it. So I don't quite know what to make of why she's been disappearing in the occasional quarter. But the quarters she's scoring phenomenally well.
Yeah, is it? And I think that's the question. It's like, I probably prefer Heath at the price point.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's going to be a lot more affordable for a lot more people.
Yeah.
Like, I know that I already have her, but that is a downgrade from Erica O'Shea for the cost of 25K. And I feel
that's
like
crazy, actually. Yeah.
O'Shea is going to score fewer points than Shelley Heath for the rest of the year. So I think I prefer that, but I think that the medium spice level comes from her injury-affected and just dead quarters. Will, do you have a medium trade target, or should I throw you directly into the spicy zone?
Well, my medium trade target is actually Bonnie Toogood, who has become a bit of a forgotten player because of a 2-week suspension. Still only priced at 613K and comes in against St Kilda this week. I think that if you're looking for a bit of a sideways trade, if you are thinking about a Stone or a Bogue out, or if you are looking to make a little bit of money, not the worst option, but we have seen, ups and downs from Bonnie Toogood, even in the first 2 weeks. So it's an interesting one.
So I had a very similar thought, right? I was kind of thinking about my exit strategies for Bogue and Stone, particularly when the news of the timeline, at least for Jess Fleming, I'm assuming you haven't looked. When's the next time the Bombers have a good matchup for a forward?
I assume it's this week. Surely.
Try round 12.
Excellent.
It's a tough run for the Bombers.
And that's why it's a medium spicy one, because good value, not good fixture.
No, it's a dreadful fixture, and I do think that it's going to be at least 1 week of a deep forward role, because the other tidbit that came out kind of after we'd finished recording our main episode last week is Daria Bannister has broken her hand, and at that stage was out for 3 to 4 weeks, which does relegate Bonnie Toogood to a spot deep in the forward line for at least at the bare minimum until Bannister is back. And to make it even worse, the Bombers had both Steph Kane and Brooke Walker go down. Brooke Walker being someone that has moved out of the midfield to go and play more as a forward this season. So the forward stocks at the Bombers are dire, and I do think that means that Bonnie plays more deep. But it does mean she has funneled more targets. So how she manages that this week against St Kilda will probably define if she's a target for me. I'm just not sure I'm willing to jump in straight away because I think the Bombers are missing so many players with injury.
Makes a lot of sense.
Sorry, you kind of gave me the platter on which I could serve my Essendon analysis. So I appreciate that. And I do think she's worth keeping an eye on, but maybe not just for me this week.
Hence a medium one. It's all about the value. If you want to jump on early and you think, you know what, I back her in, you're going to get the value. But again, you never know how that fixture's going to affect her scoring, how the role's going to be. We'll have to wait and see.
Yes. All right. Well, I'll go straight back to you. I want your spicy take. This is where you operate frequently. I want your spicy pick, your spicy trade target.
So my spicy trade target is, as always, Sarah Verrier. That
operates as a default. I always assume that Sarah Verrier is a trade target for you.
No, the spicy one that I do want to talk about is Chelsea Randall. Chelsea Randall is a player that seems to pop up in trade discussions every single year. From our first ever season where we came in and I was like, Chelsea Randall, I reckon she'll be a good value one, and was poo-pooed because she was a veteran. We're now, 3 years later and we're like, Chelsea Randall, she could be some value as a defender. It happens every bloody year. And Chelsea Randall is a spicy one because she's just come off scoring 103, which was a really, really good score, as you obviously know. But what did she score the week before, Liam?
Was it 102?
No, it wasn't 102. Jono, would you like to take a guess?
Oh, it was probably something, a little bit poorer, maybe a 60.
It was a 16.
Oh, it was close.
So,
in the way that your guess sounded close to what it was.
Yeah.
And yes, it was 70% game time, which is low-ish, but that's basically for most players a foolish game. 16. Had, 4 disposals, 3 free kicks against, 1 tackle, 0 marks. So, how do you read into that? I've got no idea, to be completely honest. But if you're willing to take a gamble on Chelsea Randall, who in previous seasons has been the highest scoring defender and has been a high scoring forward and has just regularly pulled out big scores, it's a spicy one.
Yeah, it is a very spicy one, particularly given the matchup is Hawthorn this week. But then again, she did score all those points against Brisbane, but then nothing against GWS.
Yeah, so maybe the tougher the fixture, the better for Chelsea Randall. She needs the fight.
What do we do about the fact that the game after is Gold Coast? Is she going to score 6?
Probably.
Or 106?
Well, I mean, Gold Coast are apparently better than GWS, so it's probably 26, but... yeah.
I think against the Giants, she sat quite deep forward and would have had Kat Smith alongside her all game. Whilst I didn't get to watch the Adelaide-Brisbane game, but I'm confident that after their midfield performance against the Giants, they would have gone, some things need to change, and they probably would have thrown her through there a little bit more. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I'd say so.
The ball just lived also just in areas that Randall populates more frequently. and it was just a more contested game. There was just like a lot of streaming up and back against GWS, and it was a lot tighter and in closer between two hotly contested teams. Jono, you've also, I'm looking at the run sheet, you've also gone a spicy one from this game. Who's your pick?
Yeah, I've been waiting for this player to turn a corner along with a few others who have had massive price losses this season. This is the first one of these players who has turned it around, and that's Sophie Conway, who after a 16 in the first round against the Hawks and then a couple 50s, has gone against the Crows with a 96. So her price has dropped 350k. It was more than that, but she's gone up 125k on the back of that score. But still only 744k. So you could trade Zippy Fish down to Sophie Conway, make 200k. I obviously am very concerned about the North Melbourne matchup, but this is a player who has averaged quite high in the past. I would have thought this is what you would usually expect to be a 1 million plus player. So I don't know. It's just interesting to me. It's interesting.
It's spicy.
It is very interesting.
Yeah.
Is it as interesting as my pick, which is Eliza West, who has lost 255k on the year? You are now downgrading to her from Zippy Fish. Scored a 92 against St Kilda, has Adelaide this week, and then has a fairly decent run.
Did also score a 90 from 69% game time in round one against Brisbane. So score against good teams.
Can capably score and has one bad matchup until round 11 for midfielders. I am not doing this myself. This is just spice for somebody else. But it's a name that I think I have to keep a watch out for because she was pretty much at 100 last year. And her average is currently 77. So that's my spicy option. I personally don't have an extra spicy one, but Wilhelm, who is your extra spicy, make sure you've brought the milk with you trade-in target?
My extra spicy one is Dayna Finn from Carlton, who has put it up back-to-back 115 plus scores. Comes up against Gold Coast this week as well, and is just dominating through the midfield and across halfback for Carlton, just everywhere at the moment, and has now pushed her price up to 1.074 million. So is actually more expensive than Zippy Fish, but at the moment, that's where all the points are going at Carlton. It's a bold call if you want to go to Dayna Finn, because 215 plus scores doesn't necessarily mean that's where it's going to continue going, but you could be having a very, very unique option that gets you some points that other people won't be getting.
I was just saying her marking prowess was unbelievable across these last 2 weeks. Like she's been clunking everything.
I think that this is too spicy for me because I think it's a factor of wing scoring and how it can be
we are
funded.
at the extra spicy category. That is the point, my good man.
I do love some spicy real life food, but I don't know if I can quite hang you in the fantasy spicy realm. I do think that Dayna Finn has been amazing. If there was a draft product, she would have just been the world's best option because she will probably have been picked up after the big score last week. So credit to you if you have her. There is another wing that suddenly decided that they're 100 plus scoring mid. Jono, do you want to talk about this one?
This is a good one.
Yeah. No,
I love this one.
This is one that I didn't talk about on the West Coast episode, and I'm annoyed because I did talk about her with Will in the preseason. It's Courtney Rowley. Put up 112 or 110, depending on whether you're looking at fantasy or the app right now. But a massive, massive score. And it's because she's been playing out of position for the first 3 games of the season. Finally gets to look in at the clearance games in the middle. And boy, she's unbelievable as a midfielder.
She looked very, very good in that game.
Yeah. We've talked about West Coast having a very, very big need to change up some of their stoppage clearance game. And I think Courtney Rowley is the person. The reason she's so cheaply priced is we look at a couple seasons ago, she did her ACL. Last season was sort of coming back and she put up a couple 70s towards the end of the year. But what I liked was that they threw her straight back into that mix.
Jono, you say why is she so cheap? What did she score last week?
Is it better or worse than Chelsea Randall?
Look, it's not great. It's certainly it's not a number that I'm willing to say publicly because I am suggesting this is a good option.
She's nearly outscored her previous week by 100 points. She scored 14 from 77% game time last week.
Yeah,
which
but as I say,
is apparently a very long time to spend on the ground.
Playing out of position. You know, they've been playing her at half forward, off half back. They've been moving her around. This is the first week they've given her a real look at the inside middle of the ground. And that's where she does her work.
So she's
I'm not going to lie.
She's currently expensive too. For
I'm
what is
so
effectively
tempted.
a rookie.
I'm so tempted.
I mean, 605k with 112 in her price cycle. I think there's almost a guarantee she goes up next week because a 35 drops out, and then after that, a 14 drops out. So I'm almost more tempted to put this as a bench option and just like see if I can get some cash rise out of her.
I'm half tempted to. If it wasn't for the matchup against Collingwood this week, I would be going Zippy Fish, Courtney, Rowley on field right now.
You'd be going, Courtney Rowley on field this week.
Yep, this week.
Wow,
that is the spice that I think ends this portion of the episode.
We just hit the top of the Scoville charts, and
my tongue has been absolutely incinerated by all of this. But it does mean, and it is a good time to talk about it. We have kind of flagged rookie chat. We've been talking a lot about it already. I think that the most important rookies to talk about are obviously Piper Dunlop and her 19, and also Tessa Boyd. Tessa Boyd, let's say she doesn't play this week. Do you hold her or do you trade her out knowing that she is, whenever she's going to play, make cash? I can't answer this question because personally I haven't had to turn my mind to it. Jono, you can have a go at this one. Tessa Boyd is named out this week as a 1 week injury. Do you keep her in your side?
It's challenging. I probably won't. I think we were already worried about her job security, and players are going to keep coming back. You know, like even if it's one more week out, we could possibly see Jazz Garner the following week as well. At some point, I do think there is a concern about a team that just keeps winning. How much are they really going to change it up? I think I'm probably training. If she doesn't play this week, my plans will be to trade her out. I think it's too much cash.
Yeah, it is an awkward amount of money to be holding onto on your bench. I personally think that she's not the highest priority trade out, and I think this is the problem. She's a very awkward price to be holding on your bench if you are in defense only, because she doesn't have a lot of good downgrade options. And that actually is probably a good thing to question now. In terms of, Will, have you kind of considered who you prefer as your defensive downgrade targets this week?
Defensive downgrade targets, not 100% certain, because I've still got Kyla Forbes. I've got Boyd on my field. If anything, I'm looking at more upgrades in terms of defense. So, yeah, we finally got a decent score out of Izzy Bacon this week, which was good. So that's a potential option, but the defender pool is pretty thin when it comes to rookies.
I think Layla Ebert put up a 66 this week, which is pretty handy.
It does mean that she's now 423k, so kind of not in that 300 to 400k range. But I agree that that's probably where I'd be looking. You could make a case that at this stage, Lily Postlethwaite has dropped off enough. She's now at 483k. And in terms of the 300kers, like, it's not exactly a great bunch. Maybe Holly Eifold, who's looked okay for Fremantle, is a player to get. Same kind of applies for Gemma Rigoni, who I think actually had some decent enough moments playing against Richmond, but still only scored a 28. In terms of what do we do, we've kind of talked about Zippy Fish a lot. Lucia Painter had a 74, looked excellent, but I think I'm of the view that she's absolutely okay to trade out at this stage, just on the basis that we are now in the season of putting that cash on field. The player that's a bit tougher is Ash Centra, only scoring a 33. It means that she didn't really move her cash a whole lot. We would kind of been talking about potentially that bigger score from the week prior really boosting her up. So she's only gone up 16k. So 484. Will, is this someone that you are looking to priority trade out, given she's got another tough matchup this week against Sydney? Or is it, she continues her very slow burn for the season?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a priority trade out. I think that she's a player that if we do get like a Lauren Young coming up as a debutante this week, you might use your utility to make a quick, easy 180k there, for example. I don't think it's a priority. I think that she hasn't earned enough money to be like, yep, get rid of her, build up your money. I think there's other things you can be doing, but if she is your best cash reserve, yes, I would pull the pin there.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. In terms of the rucks, Jono, Havana Harris scored a 58. That was, a middling game by her standards this year. Still pretty good for a rookie. Is it a case of now's the time to jump off, or is there still enough of a cash rise for her to run with?
Yeah, I think we talked about how Harris and the Gold Coast Suns had a bit of an easier run for a few weeks to start the season, but I think it's about to get a little more challenging. So this week they play Carlton Blues, who I think have shown some really good form over the last few weeks, and then they have a run of Adelaide, Melbourne, Brisbane, and Hawthorn. And that is where I get very, very worried. So I often don't see a lot of those 300k rucks come through. At the moment, we've actually got a couple. I'd be pretty happy bringing in someone like Charlotte Riggs. I'd be pretty happy bringing in someone like Madison Torpy just for a week. Or, I think who was the other one at the... Oh, there's one I'm thinking. Oh, Ellie Simmons for the Hawks, of course. Who's putting up back-to-back 40s and looks like she'll be playing for the next few weeks. I think there's some options you could go to.
Great option as well.
I think it's a great time to sort of try and jump out of a few
Great time to
players.
trade in Zoe Basanko.
Yeah. Caitlin Reid has scored 230s before she missed out on selection this week. So the ones that Mel had been picking doing wonderful for her.
If you've got Harris on field, I also think now is a very important time to be jumping sideways, because that could get ugly quickly. And it's only, even if you haven't got that much money, it's 50k to get to Eilish O'Dowd, who put up an 80 on the weekend. I think there's some good options out there in the ruck department to easily jump sideways too.
I think that there's just enough. And I think then that, brings the question of Piper Dunlop as a downgrade. You're not getting a whole lot by going down to Riggs, getting 80k. I'm sitting here going, if I hadn't been in the situation where I'd gone down to Lauren Young as a forward target, I would probably be looking to try and do at least one trade to generate some cash. Is 80k enough to justify the trade? 80k cash generation, Will. This is on your brain this week.
Probably not. And I think Dunlop spent a fair bit of time off the ground this week, so fitness is going to be an important thing. But I think if Dunlop plays for all intents and purposes a full game, so 60 to 70%, should probably score another 40 against Richmond, which will probably kickstart that cash gen a little bit more again. So I think if you've got other options again, like an Ash Centra that you can use as your cash money to bring in a cheap player, I'd probably look elsewhere than Piper Dunlop. But again, if that's the reserve you've got, pull the trigger now.
Gun to your head, is it trade in Torpy or Riggs as the downgrade?
Riggs.
John, are you the same?
100%, yeah. I mean, I like Torpy's game. It was a 1 week play until Jess Good gets back, whilst Riggs, I mean, that goal she kicked, she's got some stiff competition, but it could have been goal of the week. Comes streaming out of the centre late in that game there.
Going to be hard to beat Chloe Malloy's efforts from the boundary line.
It's going to be very tough. Yeah.
if it wasn't for the fact that we were already an hour into recording, I would tell you why Chloe Molloy's goal should never win goal of the week, because it was just, I'm just going to throw my foot at it and see what figures out. Like, it's the fluke good goal as opposed to I meant to do this. But we're not going to go into it any more depth than that. Speaking of incredible goals, Bre Koenen, we've already kind of mentioned her, scored a 57, has a tough matchup this week. Absolutely fair to be considering a trade out at this stage. Finally scored a behind after having kicked 7 goals straight to start the season. So you can see why she had a bad week. It was dreadful. Laura Stone's a player that we've already discussed. Grace Koch, she is now back at 300k. All those gains are gone. I'm going to blame Reece Shaw for that. It's very difficult when you think you were going to be playing against Taylor Gregory and you instead get Lauren Bella as your main ruck opponent for the week. So I think that's tough. At this stage, it's almost better if Grace Koch is dropped, so at least she can become a red dot for us. I'm of the opinion right now that it's not even worth, like, you have to be in an extremely luxurious position to consider going Koch sideways to Young and effectively just doing a trade for 0 cash.
Yep.
Is anyone going to disagree with me there?
Completely agree. I'm in that very same boat right now where I've just got Koch sitting there going, yeah, nah. Hopefully we'll be a red dot.
I mean, are we happy this early to end up with sort of a dead spot on our bench? Because I think this is going to be one of the last chances that we get an easy, obvious 300k target in Lauren Young. Otherwise, are we going to be waiting for someone who we like the look of and then we have to go up from Koch?
I think that if you can do that, it's a great option. I think the problem is at the moment we're still at the stage where we need the money to facilitate a lot of the other trades for a lot of coaches. A lot of coaches will be saying, I'd love to do that, but I simply don't have the money spare to do a 2 trade to get the fixes that I need.
You really need to have banked a lot of cash the week before and do 2 upgrades and then be sitting there going like, well, I've got the 2 good players I want. I've just got a spare trade left. I think that's the only situation you can be in. Some other rookies that kind of popped on the weekend, I wouldn't hate. Paige Scott, they got some midfield time too, and they did look all right doing it. I think there's more than enough of a case to trade them in. And then, this is bloody cruel, Ella Smith for the Gold Coast Suns, scoring a 56. Where was this when she was a forward on our teams last year?
Well, she was sitting 1 spot behind Charlie Rowbottom, and now, there's free reign. There's opportunity in that midfield.
Are you suggesting that Ella Smith is as good a footballer as Charlie Rowbottom? Because if so, you should have said that in the spicy take segment, because that that houses whatever Will had been saying about bringing in Courtney Rowley.
That would have absolutely blown mine out of the water. That's a whole new scale's worth of spicy.
Look, I think if we get an update on Rowbottom and we see it's not 2 weeks, it's like a month. There's a little bit of price rise to come with Ella Smith. It's just one worth keeping.
I think that's not a spicy take. I agree with you wholeheartedly. What you said earlier about her being as good as Charlie Rowbottom, I could never get on board.
I think you misheard me if that's the takeaway you got from that.
It's what I decided I wanted to hear. All right, that is all of our hot topics for the week. It was certainly a ramshackle affair. Apologies if it didn't feel like it was going in any one specific direction, but you got what you got.
This is what now happens when Mill's not here to organise us.
Yeah, well,
and the fact that we're doing it on a Sunday night.
Putting the 3 of us here to talk, dangerous areas without any guiding light. We're just rambling along, doing what we do. Like, the fact that we've actually managed to stick to any form of structure is probably impressive to begin with.
I do love the fact that you've decided to do this diatribe right as I was about to do some hosting and move across to the next segment, which is Captain's Corner.
Who's hosting that?
Well, on the run sheet it says me, so I should probably be the one doing it. So last week, my top 5 from Fantasy Fix, which you should all be having a look at during the week on the website, was 113, and I had a pretty solid top 5. The only one that didn't really get up to what I was expecting was the aforementioned Zarlie Goldsworthy, who needs to lose their coach. In terms of the options this week, and again, I'd like to remind you, we are recording this on Sunday night, so I haven't dived fully into my research. We'll get more of that on Wednesday. But at the moment, my top three are Laura Gardner. Just given the matchups this week, I do feel like Sydney going up against Collingwood have shown themselves to be a great one. Mim Strom looks like could be a bumper week for her. And then it is hard to go past Ash Riddell, particularly when we saw that Ebony Marinoff just had 118 this week.
Yeah, and the other very good thing about Laura Gardner is the Sydney Collingwood game does start the round. So you do get to take the look at Gardner as a vice captain. If you are at the stage where you now have a red dot, you might be able to get a nice vice captaincy loophole. That is an excellent point, which brings us to final point of the episode, trade plans for the week. Will, I'm going to throw to you first. What's your trade plan this week? So in our run sheet, we put number one trade prio and point of weakness. My number one trade prio is I need ruck, and my point of weakness is ruck. I need a ruck badly, and your point of weakness is picking the right one. Well, I'm hoping not, because at the moment the one I've gone for is Steph Wales, on the basis that I think she'll be better for the run. In her first game back, scored a very, very decent 73 and still managed to drop 52k. So basically puts it in the range where I can actually afford a player, which is always great. At the moment, I've been doing what we always do while we're doing the recordings, and been playing around with a infinitesimal different trade options surrounding the main one. And at the moment, my actual current trades are Zippy Fish to Courtney Rowley. Of course, that was a guarantee. I knew that was coming. And the best part about this is I went Zippy Fish to Courtney Rowley, and I went Courtney Murphy up to Steph Wales. And I literally did what you were saying, Jono, which was, I think it might have actually been Liam rather, but I did what we were saying before, which was I did those two trades and went, I don't know what to do with my third trade. So I've actually put Grace Kosh to Lauren Young. Wonderful. Will that maintain for the rest of the week? I've got no idea. No, it will not. There's no way. That's where I've got it at. The important thing is, whatever permutation I do of my trades, by the time it is lockout, we'll have a ruck, most likely Steph Wales, but I can do different versions of the trade, which would involve trading out, say, Sierra Greaves or Ash Centra, that could get me to a higher option like a Morfitt or a Matilda Scholes. But for now, Steph Wales, just to save that little bit of extra money, is the one that I'm probably looking at. I've noticed that you've not suggested that Courtney Rowley is going to change, which I think is fair based on what we've discussed this evening. Jono, are you going similarly Rowley directioned? I need to do something like that to catch back up, honestly.
Yeah. No, I'm generally feeling pretty happy with my team. I think there's a couple spots that I want to fix up. One is Laura Stone in the forward line. The other is, as happy as I was with Isla Sheeran, I was looking at it as a short-term play and whether or not I could take that all the way up to a more premium mid. So I'll definitely be fixing up one of those two. And the other question in my heart is really, do I need to take Lucy Wales up to Mim Strom? Because I think Mim Strom is going to be the dominant force we saw towards the end of last season again. And it was just that first few matchups that were quite tricky. So the fact she's immediately put up 118 again in their first, I suppose, of the less difficult matchups she had, I do think I might be tempted to go Wales up to Strom there.
I think that's a fantastic plan. I am considering doing very similar. Stone out, Schultz up to Strom, and then also looking at going, Fish to Hoare. Fish to Kate Hoare and Schultz to Strom are the two that I'm most confident in. And then I've got about 200 something odd K left. And then it's deciding who to upgrade Stone to. Can I hold an extra week? Do I look at upgrading Beck Ott or Erica Roche to an Uber Primo. I have a lot of permutations to run through. And that does mean, though, speaking of a million permutations, you are probably at the stage where you are now having a fiddle with your own team. So we will wrap up for the podcast and hope that you've enjoyed this ramshackle crew this evening, having a bit of a yap about AFLW Fantasy this week. As always, make sure you are finding all of our content at FreekickW Pod on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. As I mentioned earlier, there is always the Fantasy Fix article that comes out on the website with some more details of our preferred buy and sell options, as well as some info on rookies and captains. You can also make sure that you join the Free Kick League. The code is X4NB381I. It will also be down in the podcast description. That's us signing off for the week. I hope you enjoyed, and you'll hear from us more later on in the week. See ya.
See ya, everyone.